Ellie Carpenter's departure for the Women's Asian Cup is not simply another international call-up, it represents a collision of calendars with real competitive consequences. Chelsea's season is entering a defining stretch, and losing a first-choice fullback at this juncture alters the tactical landscape. For Carpenter, the move is layered with pride and sacrifice in equal measure. Representing Australia on home soil carries enormous significance. Yet the timing is undeniably complex. This is where elite football becomes a game of competing loyalties rather than clear-cut decisions. The bittersweet description she used is revealing. It is not the language of hesitation, but of professional reality. The League Cup final against Manchester United would have marked her first domestic final in blue. Missing that moment is no small emotional cost for a player still establishing her Chelsea identity. Finals create memories and legacy. International tournaments, however, create history. Carpenter must now choose history over immediacy. For Chelsea, the impact extends beyond sentiment. Carpenter has been one of the most consistent performers since her summer switch from OL Lyons. Her athleticism on the right flank has added verticality to Chelsea's build-up play. In Sonia Bompastor's system, fullbacks are not auxiliary pieces but structural pillars. Removing one mid-season forces recalibration. Depth will be tested not in theory, but in matches that carry silverware implications. For Australia, though, this is non-negotiable. Hosting the Asian Cup transforms expectation into pressure. The Matildas are not merely participants, they are favourites. Carpenter and Sam Kerr are central to that ambition. Their availability strengthens Australia's spine at both ends of the pitch. In tournament football, continuity and chemistry are decisive. Australia cannot afford to approach this without its European-based leaders. Thus, this exit is not just about absence. It is about competing priorities in a globalized football ecosystem. Club success and national ambition increasingly overlap rather than alternate. Carpenter stands at that intersection. Her decision is professional, necessary, and strategically logical. Yet it leaves Chelsea navigating a pivotal month without one of its most dynamic performers. For audiences less familiar with the Asian Cup, the tournament's magnitude is often underestimated in Europe. Carpenter was correct to frame it as the continental equivalent of the Euros. It is staged every 4 years and gathers the strongest sides in Asia. Japan, Korea, and China bring tactical discipline and tournament pedigree. The margins between success and failure are narrow. It is a competition defined by intensity rather than spectacle. What elevates its significance further is the World Cup qualification pathway embedded within it. The top 6 sides secure direct qualification for the 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil. That dual objective alters the psychology of the competition. It is not merely about lifting a trophy. It is about safeguarding a nation's long-term project. Every group stage fixture carries structural implications beyond the final whistle. This layered format increases risk. A single misstep in the group phase can complicate qualification scenarios. Tournament football is ruthless in that regard. Australia, as hosts, will face heightened scrutiny. Expectation amplifies pressure rather than easing it. Carpenter understands that stakes are not abstract, they are measurable and immediate. The scheduling, however, adds another dimension. Mid-season tournaments can distort rhythm. European players typically enter major competitions after domestic campaigns conclude. Here, Carpenter transitions directly from club intensity into international pressure. That shift requires mental agility as much as physical conditioning. Recovery cycles compress. Tactical adaptation must be rapid. In that sense, this Asian Cup is not a side note to Chelsea's season. It is a defining event in its own right. For Carpenter, success in Australia could reinforce her authority both internationally and at club level. Failure, conversely, would echo back into her return. This is the delicate equilibrium elite players manage constantly. Sonia Bompastor now faces a structural decision rather than a simple replacement dilemma. Carpenter's profile is unique within the squad. She offers pace, defensive resilience, and a relentless engine capable of sustaining high-pressing patterns. Her overlapping runs stretch compact defensive lines. Removing that outlet forces Chelsea to adjust their width mechanics. Tactical continuity is suddenly interrupted. The League Cup final magnifies this absence. Manchester United's transitional threat demands defensive discipline. Carpenter's recovery speed would have been a significant asset in managing wide counters. Without her, positional coverage must be recalibrated. The margins in finals are rarely forgiving. One defensive miscalculation can define the narrative of an entire season. Beyond the final, rotation becomes delicate. Chelsea's fixture congestion in March is substantial. Squad management was already a balancing act. Carpenter's departure adds strain to defensive options. This is where recruitment strategy is scrutinized. Depth exists, but cohesion is another matter entirely. Yet adversity can produce clarity. Opportunities emerge for squad players to assert relevance. Competition for places intensifies. In elite squads, internal rivalry sharpens standards. Bompastor may discover alternative tactical nuances during this period. Short-term loss can sometimes stimulate long-term solutions. Still, the absence will be felt. Carpenter is not merely a rotational component. She has embedded herself into Chelsea's tempo and rhythm. Her return timing will influence how seamlessly she reintegrates. For now, Chelsea must navigate silverware ambitions without one of their most dynamic wide defenders. At 25, Carpenter occupies a pivotal stage of her career. The move from Lyon to Chelsea signaled a desire for new competitive challenges. Her performances in England have reflected maturity and composure. There is a visible confidence in her decision-making. This Asian Cup offers a parallel opportunity to consolidate leadership status within Australia's squad. Her comments reveal psychological awareness. She acknowledges the strangeness of mid-season tournament preparation. However, her match rhythm with Chelsea provides reassurance. Playing every 3 days in November and December has conditioned her for high-frequency competition. Tournament football demands precisely that endurance. Facing Japan or Korea presents different tactical puzzles compared to the Women's Super League. Asian teams often prioritize quick interchanges and spatial intelligence. Defensive positioning must adapt. Carpenter's versatility will be tested in unfamiliar patterns. International football rarely mirrors club predictability. Emotionally, representing one's country at home transcends routine fixtures. The crowd factor intensifies responsibility. Success on home soil creates generational memories. Failure, conversely, lingers longer. Carpenter's calm demeanor suggests readiness rather than anxiety. This tournament could redefine her season. Triumph would enhance her standing in global discussions. It would also validate Chelsea's recruitment decision. In that sense, her journey to Australia is not a pause. It is an acceleration of her broader trajectory. Alongside Carpenter, Sam Kerr's inclusion compounds the story. Kerr's presence is symbolic as much as tactical. She embodies Australia's golden generation. Her partnership with Carpenter carries familiarity and understanding forged across multiple campaigns. Together, they anchor both ends of Australia's strategic spine. For Chelsea, losing 2 Australian figures amplifies disruption. Kerr's influence extends beyond goals. Her movement shapes defensive lines. Her absence alters attacking reference points. Simultaneously, her leadership qualities are irreplaceable in high-pressure domestic fixtures. Yet for Australia, this duo represents stability. Tournament football thrives on established chemistry. Kerr's experience in high-stakes European matches transfers seamlessly into continental competition. Carpenter's defensive assurance complements that dynamic. The synergy is not coincidental, it is cultivated. This dual absence forces Chelsea to demonstrate institutional resilience. Elite clubs anticipate international tournaments. However, timing remains unforgiving. The League Cup final now unfolds without 2 players integral to recent performances. In global football's interconnected calendar, such overlaps are inevitable. The question is not whether disruption occurs, but how effectively it is absorbed. Chelsea must adapt quickly. Australia must capitalize decisively. The outcome of this Asian Cup will ripple beyond March fixtures. Qualification for the 2027 World Cup in Brazil is foundational for Australia's long-term planning. Securing that pathway early reduces strategic uncertainty. It also strengthens investment narratives within the federation. Carpenter's role in that mission is significant. For Chelsea, the challenge is maintaining momentum. Silverware-defined seasons. If the League Cup slips away narrowly, analysis will inevitably reference absences. That is the nature of elite sport. Context rarely softens competitive disappointment. However, success in Australia could elevate Carpenter's stature upon her return. Confidence gained in tournament football often translates into domestic authority. Chelsea may ultimately benefit from a sharper, battle-tested fullback. International intensity can refine rather than fatigue. This episode underscores modern football's structural tension. Players serve both club and country in increasingly overlapping cycles. Strategic planning must account for that reality. Emotional narratives exist, but professional calculation prevails. In the end, Carpenter's departure is neither purely loss nor pure gain. It is a calculated risk within a global calendar. Chelsea navigates short-term disruption. Australia pursues continental glory. The consequences will reveal themselves not only in March, but across the seasons that follow.